Hey guys, Darkovika here. Welcome back to the next tutorial. We're going to be talking about kind of a couple all mashed together because they do sort of all rely on each other in one way or another. We're going to be talking about the branch button, label, jump, and stop. These four kind of intertwine. Actually, the branch button and the jump rely on the label, and the stop is just sort of important for a lot of reasons. First of all, let's talk about label. Label can be vital in like 100 different ways. So a label actually does nothing to your game. It can just sit here. It doesn't actually need to be anything. In fact, I sometimes use labels in order to sort of set up my project and figure out what the heck is going on. You can also set up comment sections that will do that, but sometimes I just use labels. Labels are really better used for specifically jumping and buttons, but we'll get to that in just a second. So let's give this label like a pertinent name. Let's give it start, because it's at the start. Excuse me. That was for a previous thing. A warning about labels is that in a scene, I am not quite sure what it takes to flesh out the names of labels. I think it might be opening and closing TyranoBuilder. However, once you name a label, it's kind of like taken in that scene. So we're going to name this start one, and that is the name of our label now. Now, right now, if I play this game, it's not going to mean anything. So let's go ahead and test out this scene. Hello, this is a new game project. Bam, nothing happened. So our label exists. It does nothing to the game. It doesn't show up. It doesn't do anything by itself. So now let's go ahead and test this with a branch button. And for the sake of this, I'm going to remove this stop. That stop was there from the default scene setup. Let's also take a text, and we're going to pop this down after the branch button. We're going to say after the branch button, sort of as a hello, that's what this is. So let's work with this branch button. Yeah, we have our branch button set up. And we can set the color of it. I'm going to set it to rose because I think it's a pretty color. And the location, we're going to go ahead and explain this now. A location is your scene. So as you see here in this drop down, we have scene1.ks selected. By default, it will automatically select the scene that you're in, which is scene1.ks, I believe. The other options we have are config.ks and titlescreen.ks. However, we don't want those because we're not jumping to those. That's not what this button is doing in this particular situation. The target is how we choose our label. You can sort of see here all of the different labels that I've been working with, but we want to use start one because that is the name of this particular label. So now this button is pointing towards this label. So if a player clicks this, in effect, it's going to go towards this label if it's working. So let's give this button, some words. No, I'm just kidding. Go to start. We're going to name it something like that. And now it has a name, so this button has words on it so that the player knows what they're clicking because you can't have an empty button. Let's do the positioning tool. Now this particular branch button is interesting. The best way to use it really is to move these around manually. You will not really get exact with how you move this button around. And we're going to hit accept. We're just going to pop it there. The only way to get this button to be perfect, and by that I mean like perfectly centered, requires a lot of math as well as some sort of figuring, and this part I'm not 100% sure how to do. You need to know how big this button is, and I mean it can be as big or as small as you want it to be, and it will change size depending on the text, so it is never a set size for this particular branch button. But you need to know how big that is because you have to mathematically gauge, using some equations, where the center of this is based on your screen size. And then remember that the button is being moved around based off of this corner, the 0, 0 mark. So when you determine the center of the screen, if you just pop that into this X and Y position, your button's going to look something like this. Because let's say this point right here is the center of the screen, your button's going to pop right there. And that's not what we want, obviously. What we want is something like this, which means what we want is the exact center of this button, which you must, mathematically determine to be at the center point. So that would be approximately like here-ish or something like that. So you would need to mathematically figure out the center of the screen and the center of your button. There is a much easier way to do this by using this node right here. However, that is not the focus of this tutorial. We'll get to that later. So for right now, we're just going to assume that dragging my button around on the screen is good enough. And we're just going to leave it right where it is. We're going to save. And let's go ahead and test this bad boy out and watch it fail. And I'll explain why it's going to fail. So hello, this is a new game project. The button appears, but now it says after the branch button. Now, if we have a branch button in a game, let's go ahead and assume that this is because we want our player to make a decision based on game logic. So we want them to make a choice, obviously. If I hit the button now, it's not going to do anything. Even though we've set up the button to do something, it's not doing anything. And that is because the game logic has actually moved past this branch button. And a quick, you know what, we're going to do a quick test right here. I want to see if this works. A page break should actually delete that button, but no, it's not working, so ignore that. I believe it should, but it's been I forgot to turn off Steam. So anyways, ignoring that, because that's not the focus of this. We need to figure out why this didn't work, and actually it's because of this stop button that I mentioned. We need a stop after the branch button in order to make sure that the player has time to click it. So this is going to stop the game from running, I suppose, is the best way to explain it, and wait for something else to direct it. So in this situation, we have our stop in between the branch button and the rest of the game. So in this case, it says after the branch button. We're going to go ahead and play from this scene. Hello, this is a new game project. So now see, this after the branch button did not show up. We just have an empty black box. We're going to hit go to start, and it jumps to the label and starts all over again and plays this text because that's where the label is. And it's going to do it again and again and again, however many times we click that button. It's a loop. So now that we have that figured out, we've noticed that this text is no longer appearing. Now, if we take this label and we move it to below the stop, let's go ahead and hit play. Hello, this is a new game project. Now, if we hit go to start, it's going to go to here. So obviously having your buttons named correctly is really important because this is no longer at the start. It now jumps to after the branch button. So now we know that this is working. I like to have stops at the very end. It just it feels more sensical, I suppose. But let's go ahead and we're going to remove our branch button and we're going to put in a jump. So let's pop this start back up here. This label named start one. So now again, just to go over it, we have our label start one. Hello, this is a new game project. We have a jump, which we're going to set up in just a second. A stop node, text that says after the branch button, and a stop. So let's take a look at this jump node. The jump node has significantly less than the branch button, and that is because this is not a button. This is an automatic action. So here we have our location set to scene 1. This is pretty much the exact same thing as what happens with the other location setting. We're going to make our target start 1. This right here, jump if condition is true, relies on a on variables. Now we have no variables, so we're going to leave that unselected. We'll talk about variables at a later date. Oops. Save. There we go. Just know that this is advanced. Let's go ahead and hit play. It says hello, this is a new game project. Hello, this is a new game project. Hello. So basically it is hitting this jump and automatically going to the label, doing it again, going to the label, doing it again, going to the label, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So that is what your 4 buttons that we've just talked about: branch button, label, jump, and stop. And as you can see, all of them are kind of important. Now, a stop in relation to jump is not actually all that useful. In fact, if I don't have a stop there, it'll just it'll still ignore the text. It's not going to render it. So it's going to go back up to hello, and it still won't hit the after the branch button text. So there we go. There's those 4 buttons. Pardon my quick check for the page break in the middle. But yeah, there we go. Thank you.